Right now on Sports Extra, what a win for the Falcons. They went into Tampa, dominated the first half, and yeah, things got a little bit close there at the end, but they retained control on the NFC South. Plus, they got a huge day from Kyle Pitts on National Tight Ends Day.
It's a great holiday. It's almost like Christmas. It's a holiday for our position.
And we are entering the final month of the regular season for college football, with Georgia gearing up for their rivalry game, Georgia Tech looking to become bowl eligible, and Kennesaw State picking up its biggest win to date, and we're talking about it all. Plus, basketball season is officially back. What we think about this new look Hawks team with the small sample size we have so far. It's going to be a great show. Get ready, everybody. Sports Extra starts right now. Yes, sir. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome to Sports Extra. I am your host, Reggie Chatman, as crossover sports season is in full effect. Lots to watch out for and talk about surrounding our area teams. And for the next half hour, we're talking about it all, including the Falcons, who are back. Let's get right into it and allow me to direct your attention to this. The Falcons are now 3-0 on the road this season after holding on to beat the Buccaneers 31-26. And yes, it came down to getting a stop on a Hail Mary heave as time expired, but it was a game where the team did so much right. The offense, led by Kirk Cousins and his 4 touchdowns, defense with 3 takeaways for a team that passed their lead in the NFC South.
You know, stats for losers, as we know, those things is all gray matter when it comes to those things and separation of where you're at. But it's about where you want to go, right? We talked about the race to 10, and we learned those lessons. We learned those lessons the hard way, right? We got to go out there and we got to keep applying pressure and keep going. And that's got to be the mentality in Atlanta.
Got to have that winning mentality. I'm joined by home team Brandon Leak from 680 The Fan and Locked On's Atlanta's Tanitra Batiste. Guys, what a weekend for the Falcons. 8 weeks into the season, home team. What is the one word you could describe this team so far?
Refreshing. That we could see a game like we saw, and we've seen that game repeatedly. Did we really think the Falcons were going to be up 3 scores and just run the clock out? Or a money kicker misses one that would make it an 8-point game and we had to wait for the final play on a Hail Mary? That was refreshing to see it go the way of the Falcons. 3 turnovers by the defense, and I'm not really putting this on the defense this year because it is limited and there are some things that really can't be fixed this year. This is on the offense. $180 million quarterback, played like one. Kyle Pitts, first-round pick, played like one. And your coach and your coordinator got it all together for a win on the road and a 2-game lead over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 4
of their 5 wins are decided by single digits this year. What's a single word that you would describe this team as?
I describe them as ascending because for me, when you think about this, you got your 2 games against your chief competition for the division title. So I think that's one thing. Also, you turn a defensive turnover into a touchdown on offense in that very next series, and your not so mobile quarterback actually gets you 13 yards to be able to extend a very important drive at the end of the game. Those
we'll talk about that.
I know, right?
We will talk about that.
Kirko was in his feelings, and he ended Kirktober on a very, very high note. So I think, granted, the Bucs didn't have Mike Evans and they didn't have Chris Godwin, but they did have Rashad White, right? And they did also have Bucky Irving, and they got 60 yards in that first quarter, and yet the Falcons found a way to win. That's a conversation that we haven't had in the last couple seasons that they're able to do, and I think those are the kinds of things that make me think this team is absolutely ascending.
One of those conversations that we haven't had about this team for a long time has been the quarterback play. Kirk Cousins is doing his thing. 23 of 29, 276 yards, 4 total touchdowns. He's thrown for 785 yards and 8 touchdowns against Tampa alone this year. Why does he hate Tampa Bay so much, home team?
I'm glad he does. Okay. I don't care why. I'm glad he does. He has come in here and he is paying off. You have now 8 games to look at, and now we have a sample size. We expect him to throw for more than 250 yards. We expect him to throw multiple touchdowns, a dual threat today as he came up with a big run late in the ball game. His leadership, he is not the most fleet of foot, but he's able to get rid of the football, and the offensive line has been able to protect him. So as long as those things continue to be the strength of the offense, and they mix in the run effectively with Bijan Robinson and with Tyler Algier, I think we have something that is not a fluke, and I think it's something rootable, and once again, something we've needed to see for a long time. There's been too much time that has passed since we've seen consistent good football by the Falcons, and we are seeing it now. Except for the Seattle game, even in the other losses, it has been consistent football by the Falcons.
It's been crazy to see. I mean, Kirk Cousins running right there was insane. Picked it up. I mean, picked up that to get the third down, then rush for the first down.
You can run a 6.4 40 as long as it's close enough for a first down. The stats don't matter. Execution and making plays when you need to make them, that's what matters.
Where does he rank amongst the all-time greats in running quarterbacks? I feel like we got to start getting into it.
I know. I feel like we should be having a conversation about him and Randall Cunningham, right?
Yeah,
right.
Lamar Jackson,
But
Kirk
you know what?
Cousins.
You know what?
Exactly.
This whole game made me think about this guy. Do you remember this guy who used to be called He Hate Me? Okay, this is
Ron Smart.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Smart.
I know my stuff.
Exactly. So he reminds me of this for the Bucs because, again, I think he does it both ways. So he has a historic game, 509 yards a couple of weeks ago. Then he does it at 276 yards, so he can hit you for deep passes and deep yards, and then he can go efficient on you, and he can still win. That's also something that we've not been able to say before, to get 4 touchdowns in different ways. I'm absolutely loving what I'm seeing out of Kirko.
All about making winning plays. The defense, they did struggle in the first half getting off the field, allowing just 7 points in the second half. They got those turnovers all of the game long. They looked really, really good, especially late. It got a little shaky there at the end, but what do you kind of say about this defense that seems to be really clicking?
Look, this is not going to be a defense that leads the league in sacks. And I think we just need to, at this point, accept the deficiencies. Not that you should, but you don't have double-digit sack guys walking around on the street. Nobody's going to trade you a double-digit sack guy by the trade deadline on Tuesday. So continuing to try to find things that work. Maybe you have to start blitzing a little bit more. But the honest truth is this defense is made up of guys who get interceptions and they try to force fumbles. And that sometimes can be enough. Will it be over the course of 17 weeks? We'll have to wait and see. But I don't think we need to think that the sack fairy is going to show up and bestow great sack numbers on the Falcons right now. Can it get a little bit better? Yes. Their pressures and their hits on the quarterback, they are okay, but they're not sacking quarterbacks. So what do? Get yourself 3 turnovers, find a way to come away with big-time momentum shifts, and then find a way to turn those into points for the offense.
They've got some real playmakers on that defense.
Yes.
Jesse Bates forced and recovered a fumble. A.J. Terrell, Justin Simmons both have picks this year. Is this the best secondary in football?
I don't know if I call it the best secondary in football, but I sure would say that they're at the top because they do it on all fronts. So they really help this defensive front because if we're being honest, the run game for any opponent has just absolutely flourished against this defense. But the secondary has been good about tackling. They've been good about giving help. And like you all said, they've been good about flipping the field. And it's everybody. I'm so excited that we're not just having a conversation again anymore about Jesse Bates III. We're now having a conversation about A.J. Terrell. Remember, 3 weeks ago, we were going crazy about the fact that, oh my, it's been since 2022, January 22, that he actually had a pick. Now it's 2 picks in 3 games. So I love what I'm seeing out of this secondary, and I think they can be in the conversation with the best.
And I think this is a perfect example. Hold them to 26. Is that too much? Hold them to 26, and the Falcons offense should be able to score 27 points per game. Does that sound crazy? Yes, but you look when the Falcons came into this season, they had the easiest schedule when you're talking about win-loss and projections in the NFL. So you're not playing juggernauts the rest of the way. Find a way to hold a game where it's manageable for the offense to not always have to be there at the very last second to win the game. And I think the Atlanta Falcons might have a little something cooking.
They've given up only 30 points in 1 game this year. They managed to do it without Justin Simmons today. I feel like if you can do that and continue cooking, then you'll do really well.
Yeah.
The player that's really been cooking recently, Kyle Pitts. I mean, it's National Tight Ends Day. First career game with multiple touchdowns. What was working today, and why can that be sustainable? Can it be sustainable?
Well, it's like he said. It's because the tight end gods were in his favor because let's face it. I love some KP, and I love what he's been able to do because this wasn't a game where he just had touchdowns. Remember, there was a chip block that he gave for himself to be able to get that touchdown. But I think for him, we understand there's going to be a little KP clusterfuffle in every game. But if you can put that aside and you can think about the fact that he's stringing things together. We're talking about 4 games with 65 yards reception or more, and now we're talking about 2 touchdowns, whereas there was a season, 1 touchdown. There was a season, no touchdowns. Now we're talking about 2 touchdowns and we're only 8 games in. I love what I'm seeing out of KP, and I think that he's loving what he's seeing out of Kirk Cousins.
I don't know if he needs a motivational speech, a hypnotist. Somebody tell him you can be the best tight end maybe in the NFC. And I think physically he's fine. He can run past defenders. He can get past cornerbacks. It seems like there's one little gear that he could mush guys, that he could get open and be a little bit more physical throughout the course of a game and season. And if he's able to do that, he's a big target. And if it's him, it's fine. If it's Drake London, it's fine. You have two big targets that now are reliable for Kirk Cousins to count on, and that's a good thing halfway through the season.
He's really coming on as of late. 17 receptions the last 3 games. The only thing he kind of did wrong was dropping the football there at the end of the end zone.
Eight's got an 8.
Yeah,
in a bad way.
He might have to talk about his own accommodations coming home if that was taken off the board. That was not a pro-veteran move, and hopefully that's the last time we see that from Kyle Pitts or any other Falcon.
Yeah, I hope so as well. All right, coming up, we're talking about the college football season that it is. As Georgia gears up for rivalry week against Florida, plus Kennesaw State's historic win. All that and more coming up next. All right, welcome back to Sports Extra, everybody. The Georgia Bulldogs with a well-deserved weekend off after going on the road and knocking off then #1 Texas in Austin last Saturday. They get back to work in 6 days' time in Jacksonville as we get another edition of the Florida-Georgia rivalry. My friends alongside me still. Dogs haven't lost this game since 2020, and based on the eye test and the fact that UJ's a 21-point favorite heading the game, it looks like that streak will continue. Home team, does this rivalry still have the same juice, even though it feels like it's really been in Georgia's favor?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is about trying to get it up to 7 consecutive wins like Steve Spurrier did. Nobody forgets that around here. And now it's 3 in a row, Dogs. It's time to make it 4 in a row and see if we can make it 8 in a row and beat the old visor. I think Georgia's done a really good job of fixing every single roadblock they've had. At first, they were having trouble running the ball. Then they were having trouble stopping other teams from running. Then they couldn't get sacks. Then they get 7 sacks against Texas. I think the final frontier for them to conquer is just having Carson Beck show up and play an efficient, clean game in a big game, which is a rivalry game, and do it consistently. He just has not been able to, have the 250-yard, 2-touchdown game without some of the interruptions. If they can fix that, and this is a game to do so after the bye, I think it could be a really, really good finish for the Bulldogs this season.
Speaking of quarterback play, we got to talk about Georgia Tech. They've been out there starting quarterback Haynes King for the last 2 weeks and have lost both of those games. The offense had not scored less than 24 points in the game this season before the last 2 weeks. 19 total points in those games. How much has Haynes King been masking Georgia Tech's offensive problems?
Yeah, I think he's been masking them a lot because now you're starting to see, even with 296 yards in the game yesterday against Virginia Tech, all it yielded them was 6 points. And that's not going to get you a win in the ACC. That's not going to get you a win or even get you back to a bowl game. So they really do need him back. You can see that they're missing him. And I think what they have to figure out is how to get their run game going, because if they're relying on the passing game, that's not going to get them to bounce back.
It is immeasurable what a mobile quarterback can do when you have challenges offensively. And Haynes King not only can run for first downs, he can run for touchdowns. And so when you talk about putting those points on the board, protecting your defense, you really have sorely been missing that. So whatever's going on with his upper body injury, you just hope he gets healthy because the Jackets really did have something cooking. You hope they can get that mojo back.
And look, Zach Pyron can absolutely run the ball. Of course, you bring him in a lot of times in these short yardage situations, but I think it's the fact that Haynes King can throw the ball as well accurately that creates that mismatch that has made them effective offensively so far this year. All right, Georgia State, it's been a tough run for them as they've lost 4 straight after their upset victory over Vanderbilt earlier this year. 33-26 the final at App State this weekend. What's changed for this group, and what can Dell McGee do to help turn things around?
Yeah, I don't really know. And the reason I say that is because I think they kind of played above themselves when they beat Vanderbilt. And I think somehow that made everybody think, oh, wow, Georgia State's here. They're ready to rock and roll. But Dell McGee has a lot of work that he has to do. I don't want to say that program is in rebuild mode, but it's maybe in reset mode. So I think one of the things he has to do is kind of like calm everybody down, kind of reset and figure out each person's strengths. I thought they were going to be strong defensively, to be honest, particularly in their secondary, because they did a lot to get players from the portal to strengthen that secondary. So maybe that's kind of your starting point defensively, and then you build from there.
They can't score and they can't stop.
Yeah.
And you got to pick a side of the ball.
You got to do that, right?
I hate to leave it in those terms, but pick a side. If you're having problems with your defense, make sure your offense is the hammer. If it's offensively, make sure your defense can come up with some stops. And so last 4 weeks, it's just been a tough ride for the Panthers. You just hope they can find one side of the ball. which they can lean on.
Del McGee had that marquee win over Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Kennesaw State, though, put themselves on the map for something other than being a fun dynasty team in college football 25, the video game. A 27-24 win for their first FBS win ever over Liberty earlier this week. Home team, what can a win like this do for this program, and is it really something they can continue to do going forward?
Yeah, it's one of those wins, that's program changing potentially. And you're talking about if you can beat a team that had the longest winning streak in the nation, you can beat everybody. Do you have to play perfectly? No, but do you have to play better and up your game when a team like that is in front of you? Yes. And so I think that's the lesson to be learned. But what a fun night to have those guys, and not pull it off on some miracle play. They were in control, and they beat a team that was really difficult to beat for anybody over the last couple of seasons.
Crazy, too, because they really had the chance to storm the field twice, did those fans. It was just wild and wacky, but they managed to get it done. All right, up next, basketball season is officially underway. Our thoughts on what you've seen from the Hawks so far. All right, welcome back to Sports Extra, everybody. Basketball season is tipped off for the Atlanta Hawks, who have looked good to start the year. They've got some new faces, they've got some new names, but Trey, Jalen, and the boys are still leading the way. It's early, but on a scale of 1 to 10 home team, where do you rate the vibes?
I'm going to give him a 10.
What?
You started off, you played a team in Brooklyn who is in rebuild mode. Imagine if you lost that game. Then you go against Charlotte. They don't have much. But imagine if you lose that game, you're 0-2. You win both of those games. The ball's moving around. We've seen Onyeka Okongwu come off and look like he's a different guy. Jalen Johnson's coming into his own. And Dyson Daniels, new piece, came out. Tears down my face. 12 steals in the first game. Defense played by the Hawks. I give them credit that they didn't split or they didn't start off 0-2 for beatable teams that were supposed to be defeated at home.
I thought he had tears because the Hawks felt some type of way at the end of last season when he gave him an F- and they came for him. That's what I thought. But for me, I probably will give him a little bit of an 8. And the reason I say that is just because it shouldn't have been as tight as it was in that Charlotte Hornets game. But Charlotte, for some reason, has the Hawks number, so I totally get that. I just wish that wouldn't have come down to like literally 7.6 seconds that ended up feeling like 20 minutes to go 2-0. But I'm still going to give you a good strong 8 for being 2-0.
Well, look, home team, you mentioned defense. That's kind of a new thing for this Hawks organization. Offensively, it's not super new. They're top 5 in scoring coming into Sunday. How much should we read into that? It is early, but scoring is always good.
Yeah, scoring is good, but in my opinion, defense is even better. So I'm not so much excited about the fact that the Hawks are in the top 5 in scoring. They've been that team the last couple of seasons. They have the ability to get to the bucket. They have the ability to shoot from the perimeter. And even Jalen Johnson is starting to get good from the perimeter. What I want to see is if you can get out of being in the bottom 5 rather defensively, then we can talk about something to read into.
You had games last year where you scored 140 plus points and lost.
Nasty
you had games where you scored 150 points and more and lost. We know they can score. We know they can get their shots off. Can they consistently play defense and do it for the course of a season? That will be the charge of Quinn Snyder, Trae Young now in his 7th season, and the new guys fused in with the veterans who've been here to see if they can make that defensive difference.
You mentioned some of the new guys, and maybe the new guy that everybody wants to see the most. Number 1 overall pick, Zachary Reese-Shea, got this first start of his career tonight versus the Thunder. What do you like about his game so far, home
He
team?
looks comfortable. Okay. He does not look like the game is too physical. It doesn't look like it is too fast. He is just a guy who is coming in a little young. So as time goes on, he grows, goes through the weight program, and gets bigger. I think he will be a fantastic piece on the floor with Trae Young together. So I like what I'm seeing from the rook. It doesn't look like he can give him too much that he can't handle on his plate, and I think that's something all coaches who are trying to coach great players want to see early in their careers.
Do you have any comps, Tanitra? I said he might look like Jason Tatum. I was told I was crazy.
Yeah, that was a bit much. That was a bit much. But what I do see is a great two-way player. So if that was the reason that you were comparing him to Jason Tatum, I can agree with that because I see I see instances where I'm like, he might be a good two-way player. And for me, that's so important because, as you mentioned, defense is going to be critical and versatile. Being able to play him at the 2 and the 4 Friday night, I thought that was great for Quinn Snyder to be able to have that opportunity and that option that we haven't really seen him have before with many of those players.
Yeah. All right, let's change some gears right now. Finally, we want to send our condolences to the family of former Kennesaw State head basketball coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. He passed away Thursday due to complications that arose during a medical procedure. While at Kennesaw, he brought the program their first conference title and a trip to the NCAA tournament. His top star, Terrell Burden, was drafted by the College Park Skyhawks on Saturday. Sunday at Media Day, he talked about his former coach and mentor that helped him get to where he is today.
Not gonna lie to you, I've been all over the place all week, so it's been good, it's been bad. I've been trying to get through, but then having this opportunity is something special, and I thank him for anything, because I wouldn't be here without him. He used basketball as a tool to get to young men and turn them into real men, grown men. As soon as he walked through the room, like his presence is felt, and so it just trickles down to everybody. And as a point guard, a reflection of him, I have no choice but to match it or succeed it. So I can't thank him enough.
You were actually alongside me and asked that question to Terrell. What do you think Amir's legacy will be here in this community?
Yeah, I think Terrell summed it up very well, because in speaking with Amir's brother, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, his accolades and all that he was able to do in the NBA. Now he is the president of the G League, and yet he said Amir was the star because of the impact that he had for people off the court. And of course, I used to cover USF, and just talking to people that are still there, the impact that he had in such a short time, they will remember forever.
It's going to ache a lot of hearts for a long time. He touched so many people here locally. Worked at Georgia Tech for a season, the 2011-2012 campaign. What he did at Kennesaw State, what he was doing at South Florida, they won their first game, second round NIT. So the basketball is one thing, but the person and the leader and the recruiter and the family member he was, he is going to be missed for a long, long time.
He was a great coach and an even better person. We're going to miss him a lot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Extra. We're going to close things out with our video of the week. Freddie Freeman hitting a walk-off grand slam in Game 1 of the World Series. Unbelievable scenes out in Los Angeles.
Boy, I tell you, I felt like walk it off, and in my head it was going, Westside walk it out. Freeman walk it out, because he's not in the West. I mean, but seriously, I have one Braves bobblehead, and I know he's not a Brave anymore, but one Braves bobblehead that has stood the test of time, and that's Freddie Freeman's bobblehead, and that's because he's just that good.
It hurts. It hurts really bad. I'm a big Freddie fan.
Same.
The fan in me, he should be an Atlanta Brave. The analyst in me, you understand the business part of it. We'll get into this tomorrow on Sports Radio 680 The Fan in the Locker Room. The bottom line is there should have been a way to keep this man in here. He's not, and now 4 home runs in 4 straight World Series games. The man is a monster and a walk-in Hall of Famer.
Yeah, real shame, man. He's not here in Atlanta anymore.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you weren't more upset when we asked about this.
Well, the FCC won't let me say what I really want to say. So.
And you've had 24
hours to
decompress, too.
Yes.
Well, guys, thank you guys so much for coming on the show, and thank you guys for watching. That's it. We'll see you guys next week.